Happy New Year.
Is George alive?
I know, where is he?
Huh? Is he still alive?
Who?
George.
Yeah,
there he
go.
is.
Embalming fluid won't keep him down.
Yeah.
Do we? Welcome everyone back from the holidays. Happy New Year. Do we have a motion since we have a change on the agenda? Motion by Mr. Lawrence, seconded by Mr. Gines. All in favor?
Happy New Year.
Invocation first. Please rise for the invocation by Pastor Jacavius Pickett, Praise Temple of Biloxi.
Good evening. Let us pray. Our gracious God, our King, we're so thankful that you've gathered us here today. We're thankful that you have allowed us to see a new year and a new decade. We thank you for allowing us to represent and oversee the affairs of the people of this great city, the city of Biloxi. Now, God, I pray that these leaders, I pray for these leaders, I pray peace upon their homes and their everyday lives. I pray for the wisdom and knowledge that it takes for them to lead, and I also pray that you grant them the gift of divine wisdom and insight, that they may operate with integrity and sound minds. Open their hearts to receive direction and instruction that only you can give. Bless our mayor, every council person, each director, and every employee that makes up this city. It's in Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Thank you. Mr. Dimming, will you lead us in pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Lawrence and a second by Mr. Gines. All in favor? Unanimous vote. Miss Lucy, will you please read those changes?
To our consent agenda, we're adding item 5U, resolution authorizing entry into addendum to water tank maintenance contract. We're also adding item 5V, resolution authorizing immediate payment to Southern Mississippi Investment Company for lease and option to purchase agreement and loan agreement for Fire Station number 7.
Now do I have a motion to accept the agenda as amended? Motion by Mr. Lawrence, second by Mr. Gines. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous votes. Moving on to the presentation agenda, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. And as Barbara Walters says, it's 2020. Or as they say across the bay, it's 2020. So anyway, it is a great year, and we're really excited about this year. And of course, welcome everyone here. 2020 is an important time, and I think we've got a very important person that's going to lead our census effort. And Christy, would you like to say a few words about what's coming up this year?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Christy Hicks. I came before the board last year, I believe it was in the spring going into the summertime, to raise awareness and educate everyone that the 2020 census is fastly approaching. Well, guess what? It is almost here. We are less than 3 months from Census Day, which is April 1st, 2020. I wanted to come and lay my eyes on our council members because I have not spoken with a few of you, but we are forming complete count committees within the city of Biloxi. We want to make sure that everyone is on board, so all of your constituents within your wards, that they are counted. And the only way that we can make sure that everyone is counted is by spreading the word, by using our trusted voices to make sure that everyone understands the importance of the census, why we do the census, and how it affects us by not being counted. So I do want to make sure that everyone understands that April 1st is Census Day. By mid-March of 2020, between the 12th and the 20th, residents will receive notifications in the mail how they can self-respond There will be 3 ways where residents can respond. They can do it online, which is the first time. They can call a toll-free number, which will be in 12 different languages, or they can wait for the questionnaire to come to their house. Once the questionnaire comes to that resident's house, then they can mail it back to the Census Bureau. If they do not respond by those 3 ways, that's when we will send a census taker during our non-response follow-up, which will go into the summer, where they will knock on doors. That leads us to job opportunities. The Census Bureau is hiring. We are hiring for part-time temporary employees with flexible hours. And on the Gulf Coast area, and this is just for the coastal cities, they are paying $17.50 an hour. It is different in depending on where you live, but for the Gulf Coast, $17.50 an hour. They get paid weekly, and they also receive mileage benefits, which right now is 58 cents a mile. So you all, as councilmen, if you would, please help us spread the word. When you're sending Facebook messages or any social media posts, if you would, please raise awareness that these are temporary jobs with flexible opportunities for your employees, your citizens, and your friends and family to work. But most importantly, we want to make sure that every councilman is on board with these complete count committees. We can tag team and put some of the wards together, but we want to make sure we use you and the constituents within your ward to make sure that everyone understands why we do the count of the population and how it affects our benefits by not being counted every year. Well, not every year, but every decade, which is, this is our decade, and this is our opportunity to shape the future. It's gonna depend on the numbers from the 2020. Based on these numbers, gonna dictate how we run the federal government as far as funding, how that money is allocated for the next 10 years. So we want to make sure that we get our fair share of the money, correct, City of Biloxi?
No doubt.
So what do we have to use? Our trusted voices to make sure everyone understands. So I do look forward to speaking with you all after the board meeting, just so we can converse and get each other's information, so I can meet with the ones who I have not met with, so we can get your complete count committees going. And we do spearhead it. We help you all get organized and get all the information that you need. So thank you so much,
Thank you,
Mr. Mayor.
Christine. April 1st is the day, so if you sleep in Biloxi April 1st, you need to be counted.
You need to be counted.
That's right.
Every citizen living and breathing on U.S. soil by April 1st needs to be counted.
And I think we're still talking about $2,200 a person is just really what the distribution would be based on the federal monies to be distributed. So it's
That is
very
correct.
important.
Very important. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Christie. I would like ask the council to spread the travel card expense to the minutes. And there's a FEMA letter to be from FEMA to Gregory Michelle regarding the reversal of the de-obligation. We want to spread that to the minutes of the thing, where we've been asking for about $14 million, and 8.8 of it was forgiven, and after a number of efforts from a number of folks, and still to chase is about 6.7 million for the remainder of the project. So we want to spread at least this so everyone is aware of that. And that concludes my report, I guess, right? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any departmental reports tonight? If not, we'll move on to council reports. Mr. Lawrence?
I figure you're all aware, we got the little picture from the pickleball. A guy named Anthony, the veteran, lost his leg, came down here, played pickleball at the Don DeSnado Center. He's all excited about that. And pickleball bunch of getting into a lot of publicity, I'm telling you. That's pretty awesome. Was you out there, Mike, with them earlier?
I played in the tournament, Councilman.
Did you? I just noticed
play
he was
well.
out there. They showed pictures on, you got that spring leg. You know, it's amazing how much they can do with that. But it's pretty amazing that pickleball is bringing that much attention to the city of Biloxi. So whatever we can do to help them and make that complex out there, make it a little bit bigger, that's a good thing for the city. Let's see what else we got here. And well, last Sunday night, the day before Epiphany, you know, the 6th day of Christmas, 12 days of Christmas, we had a heck of a party here in front of City Hall. When they turned out the Christmas lights at the lighthouse, a ton of people was down there, had a huge crowd down here. Everybody had a great time. I mean, that thing, that was fine. We lit up the City Hall. That thing had turned into a big event. Of course, we love Christmas, we love Mardi Gras, so that's not hard for us to do that, you know.
Bill Raymond's sitting in the back. How about it? You want to tell him how much you appreciate that?
Who's that?
The guy that put it together. All right, Bill. Take
Where
it
that?
out.
Billy Raymond, Kay Miller. It was awesome. Thank you. Good job. Well done. And then yesterday we had, I think Mike and Rachel went ahead, Beverly Martin was sworn as a supervisor for Ward 1. And she's been a big supporter of the city of Biloxi. She helps us a lot. So, congratulations to her, and she'll do a great job. So, looking forward to things coming up big and better in the new year. And I got the only person in the room older than me is Frisbee. And I can tell you right now, he got a book this 30 years ago. I was never going to make 2020, but I did. So, Mom does. Thank you, Jesus.
Mr. Guines?
Happy New Year. Thank you, Ms. Christie, for that report. And I think we need to ask the mayor if he would consider putting something together for a kickoff for the 2020 census. So I'll be getting with you later on this week about that. Walt Rhodey, I wanted to report something. Take a note. 297 Main Street. There was some problem with the water not being hooked back up. If you would see if you can tend to that attention. They never hooked it back up, and they're trying to get the building back started again. And then right south of Main Street, this would be for Billy Ray. I didn't catch up with you earlier today. There's a little patch right south of Main Street that keeps flaring up. If you don't mind taking care of that for me. Other than that, I just wanted to commend the Biloxi and Biloxi Fire and Police Department. Last week, I witnessed a car flipping over on the bridge, and I mean within less than 2 minutes, those guys were there. And you just never, until you see it in action, see them in action, you can't grasp the good respect for what the fire and the police department did. The young lady who was in the accident, she came out well, but the way they handled it, the police department got there first, like a minute and a half, and the fire department was just shortly, like 45 seconds later. So I just wanted to give out a shout out and kudos to those guys, because I was standing there just watching them in action. So thank you, and that concludes my report.
Mr. Deming?
I guess it's customary to say Happy New Year. Other than that, I don't have much besides my appreciation. I reach out to you guys constantly throughout the week when I have issues, and you guys address them, so I don't have a lot to say in my report. Thank you guys for making my job a lot easier. Christy, Billy, Mike, you guys do a great job.
Mr. Tisdale?
Yeah, Mike, we'd talked about cameras, camera installation at the harbors and the marina. Are they moving forward on that? I think there's money in the budget.
We have one camera installed today. The Port Department is working with the PD to decide where to put the next batch. We are going to put more cameras in the port. We're starting with the small craft harbor, but one is already there now.
Outstanding. Okay, that'd be great for security purposes. And if there's a way to do it so that the security's not compromised, it'd be great if the boat owners could, go online, take a peek, or make it their screensaver or whatever. The other thing is my quarterly question: do we have any events scheduled at MGM Park that will generate some revenue for the city?
There are 2 events scheduled right now. The first is and I think I'm gonna get these dates right. The first is the annual event where the Gulf Coast Chamber of Commerce holds their beer fest. This will be the 4th year they're doing that, and I think that's they're the 3rd week of March on the weekend, and then the 4th week of March there is a tournament, a softball tournament between all the services. That's a fundraiser that is done. In both cases, these are events that we're city events. Some of the 10 that we're allowed. We're not making a lot of money, but we're covering our costs and doing fundraising.
I can just add that we've had some interest from a promoter in Louisiana that wants to look at the structure of the stadium and possibly, hopefully make a bid on having some concerts on his own, and I've just sent him the the different contracts and agreements, so he can look at that.
Well, that was my next question. I know that we had advertised for RFPs for to promote some activities. This was done, last year sometime, I think, and
Right.
didn't go anywhere. It didn't go anywhere. I don't think we had anybody. You said that really submitted a proposal. But given that scenario, if there are other promoters out there who maybe want to do something, who would they contact? The mayor, Mike, you?
Anybody with the city, we'll get the information to them. But yeah, we're pretty hopeful we're going to get, they don't want to have typically the Shuckers do not want to have a concert in the middle of a game or, in between games. But if they're gone, I mean, the contract allows us to have stuff if they're away. So it's just a matter of coordination.
Right.
As you know, the concessions are generally what's keeping promoters kind of disinterested. So that's something we need to look at as well.
I was remiss in not mentioning Conference USA. We don't have a signed contract with Overtime Sports right now, and I don't know that they do, but we are led to believe that Conference USA is coming back this year, and that we just haven't seen the details.
Okay. All right. Well,
it's a 4-day tournament.
And I mean this seriously. I'm not being flip. Peter, you're an attorney. If that's a problem with the beverages and food at these concerts or whatever, just work your legal magic or whatever you can do. Right. I understand. I know. We got a sharp councilman here next to me. He might be able to offer some support. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Mr. Glavin?
Yes, thank you. And again, Happy New Year to everyone as well. We really appreciate all the hard work that you do, and appreciate Councilman Gines pointing out the police and fire department. They've been working in tandem with upcoming Mardi Gras events and coordinating the safety and the traffic routes and all that kind of stuff, and y'all just do an amazing job. And on that note, this Saturday at 10 o'clock, we're opening Fire Station number 7. And I think we'll have Jack there, and I think you'll be there with Jack, right? And that's a big event for all of us. Biloxi's a little safer, and Biloxi's definitely better with that service. And you talk about that response time, Councilman Gines, this is going to even improve the ability to cover a lot of area faster and for the safety of all our citizens. And that concludes my report.
I hope everyone had a great Christmas and New Year. And I guess the only thing that I have today is on the way in to the meeting, I heard on the news that Iran had started attacking our bases in Iraq. So let's be sure to keep all of our military that's stationed and possibly going over there in our prayers. That's all I have.
All right, moving on to the public agenda where we have citizen comments. We have 45 minutes totally allotted. Each citizen gets 3 minutes each to speak. Once you reach the desk, please sign your name and address as well as state it aloud for the record. Anyone on my left, your right, that would like to come up and speak? Anyone on my left, your right, that would like to come up and speak? If not, anyone on my right, your left, that would like to come up and speak?
Hello, my name is Zach Hankins. Address is 1011 Division Street. We're here talking about the Keesler gate entry and the purchase of the properties along Division Street. I have a business at 1011 Division Street. I've been working with the city and Mr. Dye as far as a buyout on my property. All the offers that have been presented to me have been, in my consideration, low. For what they're offering me and what is out there, there's nothing there that I could go purchase. The property that I have now is paid for, and in order for me to move my business and not go into debt with this road coming in here, I don't think that would be, in my opinion, and I think if y'all had a business that needed to be relocated, the last thing you want to do would be go to borrow money to be relocated if they had a road being put in there. The offers that we're kind of moving forward in areas of, you know, gaining access and getting more funds together, I guess. And I've not seen an appraisal for any of this or anything. And my requests are that I could be able to see an appraisal that was done in order for me to make an informed decision on where I need to go.
Are you on the agenda now?
As for,
You're not on the agenda today, are you?
no,
Okay, gotcha.
no.
Okay. All right. What is the address?
1011 Division Street.
Okay. Thank you, dear.
All right.
Anyone else on my right, your left that would like to come up and speak? Anyone in the back? If not, citizen comments are now closed. Moving on to policy agenda, Ms. Lucy.
Ordinance to amend Code of Ordinances, Sections 15.110, 15.210, 15.216, 23, and 25 to address performance, increased eligibility, merit council, and sick leave for employees.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Tisdale. Do I have a second?
What are we doing? I read over and I don't understand.
Well, no, we had, if somebody will second it for purposes of discussion, maybe we might have
I'll
a few
second it for
questions.
discussion. I read over it and don't really understand what we're trying to do here.
Well, it's a first
Well-
reading, so
It's a first reading, so.
Okay, so we'll just
we can
discuss it
discuss it
next
next
meeting.
week.
Well, it is a first reading, but when we talked about this is not the first time it's come up. When we talked about this last month, when we last left it before 2020 over there for them North Biloxi people,
2020.
we talked about a workshop to discuss all this because we've got those positions. We're moving on the compensation schedule. And it might be a good time if we had a workshop. We don't have a meeting, regularly scheduled meeting next Tuesday. Maybe we could have a workshop next Tuesday and talk about a number of these items because there are a number of issues involved in this resolution. So that's my thinking.
It's just a simple cleanup of a very old ordinance. It is simple things like we pay tuition assistance in the city to people whose directors have approved them going to college, and that it's related to what their job is. But in some cases, we're paying as little as $155 a quarter. In some cases, we're paying $600 a quarter, depending on where that person decides they want to go to school. So we're talking about $22,000. Some employees drawing $22,000 from the city in a year to go to school, all based on the ordinance saying it's based on hours that they're going and not dollars. So that's just an example of the many things in our ordinance. You can tell you, council, our book of ordinances is completely screwed up and out of date. And it has stupid stuff in it still, to the point like in the garbage ordinance, it talks about aluminum trash cans. The problem is nobody's taken the time over the years to correct all these ordinances. And what we're trying to do, and if you want to have a workshop for each ordinance, we can do that every week, many times as you want. But it's just basic routine cleanup that brings them up to date. If you want to have a workshop, good for it, go for it. I'll have one on grease traps the week after that.
I'll go for that.
Be still, my foolish heart.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason why the ordinances are so screwed up is nobody has taken the time over the years to work with the council to correct them. And
We're
we're
glad
trying to
you
do
are.
that.
We're glad you're taking the time.
So we've had a first reading.
Okay.
So workshop between now and the second reading?
I'd like to see it. I'd like to see us schedule a workshop. As I said, when we last left in December, it was, we're going to do a workshop in January, and, well, the new year's around the corner. We'll discuss a date when we get back, and here we are. I'm good with any day, for the record, any day and any time.
I'll defer to the council to set the date. We're available.
Next Tuesday at 1:30.
Got it.
Yes, ma'am.
What's you say?
Day for us.
You're going to be on? Okay, so there's something going on next week on Tuesday?
Yeah.
All right, I'll listen to another date since my outstanding choice went absolutely nowhere. Like I said, I can meet anytime, anywhere on this topic.
So what are we gonna do?
So what about the workshop? You can't have one? What'd you say? I didn't hear you. What'd you?
installing the new equipment.
Oh,
New sound
So you
system.
can hear next time.
okay. Listen,
The 21st, what time?
I will be out of town. I have some personal business to take care of, so I'll be gone for 2 weeks, starting the 15th.
So, 2 weeks starting the 15th.
I won't be back till the 29th.
So, we're gonna set this. Why don't we do a
Yeah.
workshop?
This is why the ordinance book is so screwed up.
Compensation schedule.
Right.
Go over it.
Well, I think this falls in line when you're talking about accruing sick leave and things like that. I think that's all part of compensation.
Addressing on sick leave is changing it from it saying a quarter of a day to hours.
And
Ms. Dilby, yeah.
that's all the problem you get. That's what you gotta
why
find out.
don't we set this maybe for the first meeting of February before the meeting? So come in at 4:30 or 5 on that day. I think that if it's going to be, is there enough room up there for public? I mean, if it's just, I think that we need to have it in a public forum.
Yeah, before the first meeting's fine. Okay.
I won't be in town. The governor's inauguration is next Tuesday in Ball.
That's
We're
why I'm
saying the first week of February.
Oh, of February. I thought y'all said next Tuesday. Okay.
Well, Nikki did say Tuesday.
4:30? Okay. All right, so we're gonna have a workshop on, February what? What is it?
This is not exactly rocket science.
February 4th.
February 4th at 4:30. All in favor? Unanimous votes with Glavin out of the room.
So can we make a motion to table this?
It's just a first reading.
It's the first reading, but it's gonna come next week, right? So well, it's gonna come to the next.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
4:30. 4:30. And then we have a regular meeting at 6. FYI. All right. Are we moving on? Yes, ma'am.
Ordinance to amend the Biloxi Code of Ordinances to amend Section 2343 D8M of the LDO related to fireworks sales.
Do I have a
I'll
motion?
move it. I'll move it.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Barrett, seconded by Mr. Tisdale. Being a first reading, we'll move on to Ordinance C.
Ordinance to approve a zoning map amendment to authorize a change in zoning from RS High Density Single Family Residential to NB Neighborhood Business for property located at 280 Benaki Avenue.
I'll move it.
Motion-
Second it.
Whoa. Motion by Mr. Lawrence, seconded by Mr. Guines. Being a first reading, we will move on to Ordinance D.
She's gonna add to that bill.
Ordinance to amend Section 233586 of the LDO to designate structures located upon 141 Suter Place and 622 Water Street as City of Biloxi landmarks.
I move for approval.
We already had a previous motion and second by Lawrence and Tisdale. Mr. Lawrence, you got any discussion?
No, I just think they designated House 141 Suter as a historical home. So, correct, Billy?
Zone, they just like amended it.
So no problem with that.
Okay, Mr. Tisdale?
Not a thing, thank you.
Anyone else? All in favor? Unanimous votes with Glavin out of the room. Moving on to Resolution E.
Resolution to confirm the mayor's appointment of E. Michael Leonard to the Board of Commissioners for the Harrison County Development
So
Commission.
moved.
Motion by Mr. Lawrence,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Tisdale. Any discussion, Mr. Lawrence?
Well, you need a spot to take the best man you got, so we have the best man coming.
Amen.
Give me $5 to say that. $5.
$5, 2 beers, 2 Budweisers.
Mr. Tisdale?
Yes, Mr. Leonard, what does the E stand for? You're not under oath, so it can be anything you like today. I'm just curious.
Named after my grandfather. It's Edward
Edward.
Michael
It's a good name.
Do you have a speech?
John.
Can we call you Eddie?
No, please don't.
Okay.
Can I call you? Never mind.
Do you have a speech for us? Do you have a speech for us? Speech. Do you have a speech?
No speech. I'm here. I'll be there to represent the city and keep an eye on what Harrison County's up to.
Sounds good. All in favor? Unanimous votes with Glavin out of the room. Going on to F.
Can he leave?
I don't know.
Resolution to grant conditional use approval to authorize an existing residence to be utilized as short-term rental located at 12305 Cedar Lake Road.
Do you have a motion?
This is second reading, isn't it? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion in by Mr. Barrett, second by Mr. Tisdale. Any discussion, Mr. Barrett?
No.
What's that about?
Mr. Tisdale?
Nothing. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'd like to ask Pete Abad and Michael Leonard one question. How do we know we collect any taxes off of this? The short-term rental is not paid back to the city. It's paid to some company. How do you ever get our money back? How do we ever get our taxes?
Which one are we talking about? Short-term rentals? Yeah.
When they collect sales tax, is it short-term rental?
Anything. It's not paid to the city. Paid to them companies.
That's the main.
Paid all these companies that send it off to somewhere, and then they send it back to the state. You know, we're taking all responsibility for these short-term rentals. The police department have to work harder, the fire department have to work harder. So I want to know if we're getting any money, or we just wasting our time with these short-term rentals. Somebody needs to find out what we're collecting there.
Yeah, I guess his question is this, though. These companies are national companies, most of them. And so they turn around and they pay to the state tax commission. How do we know that we're recouping the taxes that are going to the state tax commission? I mean, when VRBO or whatever pays the taxes to the state of Mississippi, are they giving them a list of what area those taxes are coming from?
We don't even know. You know, again, with beverage license, Jerry says, you know, you'll have to have proof of your state taxes being filed, as well as the TAP account that's supposedly submitting your sales tax. But there is no way, there's a big disconnect between the state tax commission and and us as far as, and even the auditor. So we're planning on saying, how can we reconcile this sales tax that comes in one lump to what it's made up of and from?
We actually discussed this, and these national companies do pay the tax, but whenever they file this with the state, is it saying, okay, Biloxi, this portion is from Biloxi, this portion is from Gulfport, or are they just saying, we created this much revenue in the state of Mississippi, here's our sales tax?
Well,
is the state keeping all that? I understand.
Let me jump in there. These people do these things, but there's a TAP account that everybody that's responsible for doing the sales tax, you log on with your log on, and all we have to have is access to that data to say that it for each location. There's no mechanism to do that. We're planning on asking both the auditor as well as state tax commission to export that data on a periodic basis so we can reconcile sales tax to
Individuals
that.
that are using these national companies are not paying
No,
the TAP. Those taxes are collected by VRBO or one of the others.
yeah, but VRBO is supposed to be filing those sales tax returns. That's what the whole thing with the whole tax access point is, to get all that withholding. Everything in the world is about 10. If you have a liquor store, or if you have a beer permit, all of that is automated now. So it should be a way to by address and by entity, get that. I mean, each one of these entities that have a lot of that have to have their address and where it goes.
Okay. Well, that's my question to y'all. We're just adding a lot of expenses that we can't prove we can receive in a penny. Not a penny.
We can't prove that we received the sales tax from anything.
Right.
There's no reconciliation of anything to the check that's mailed to us.
But every city is having that same problem, and it's something that really needs to be addressed as legislation. That cities should be able to have the right to check on what receipts are coming back.
Reconcile.
Instead of just taking a number and they say, well, that, our sales tax went up 5% from last year. There's no way we can really audit that or check that. So there would have to be some legislation because the tax commission's very protective of that information. It's very hard to.
Right, we've done a number of things to close some loopholes and do what we can. I will say that the administration's been responsive. But a follow-up question to George just makes me think, forget short-term rentals, how do you know if we're getting what we're supposed to be getting anyway?
From anywhere. Especially if somebody's paying it, like if they have one tap account, like a national company, and they have one tap account, and let's say they generated $1 million in revenue, they pay however much sales tax in, is that being broke down by every city, or is that just going into one account and saying, we generated this much revenue in Mississippi, here's our sales tax for the state?
I don't think they can. I mean, it's got to be addressed to.
The mayor's right. We're asking the wrong folks a question. Needs to be up there. The answer's got to come from up there, and it's going to require some legislation.
That's what we do. We want to know. We'll ask those questions. Exactly.
You can get some kind of if you got the data just by industry or market or whatever, then at least you could track that from year to year to see if it's going up or down. But right now, what can you do? You get a check. That's it. You don't know.
The thing is, though, I mean, it's automated enough where people who file in sales tax religiously, monthly, sometimes quarterly, but, you know, it should be automated enough to have that information readily available if they release that information.
I mean, when you're talking about a retail business like a package store, that ain't hard to track. Somebody renting these apartments in and out, they don't know what you're paying. You can't track that.
No, well, the state tax commission, it's their deal to make people pay the sales tax, and they report it. I mean, it's truly one of the best automated systems that the state has is that that access point, that tax access point. So you can get a lot of data if they release that data for you, and you can reconcile your monthly check.
The first problem, the taxes goes to somebody else, not the state, and it's paid back to the state. That's the problem with the short-term rentals. It's not directly paid anything to the state like a retail.
What's the sales tax?
It goes to somewhere else, like Nathan said, it could be anywhere. Ship floating around the United States. What time do they have to pay it back, or do they ever pay it back? I think we need to look at the whole thing myself for the cities. Are we actually accomplishing anything or just adding a lot of expenses? Those two right there can tell you got a lot more expenses. When the people coming in and out and people complaining about them, that's a lot. So.
Any other discussion? All in favor? 5-1. Nay is George. Did you vote? Yeah. Okay, so 6-1.
I'm trying to get rid of me.
Glavin, how did it?
5-1.
Glavin's out of the room. All right, do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll move it.
Motion by Mr. Gaines,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Tisdale. Any discussion, Mr. Barrett?
No discussion.
Mr. Tisdale?
Yes, on item M.
Thank you, dear.
Item M deals with the Main Street Downtown Economic Development Program incentives. Just briefly, we approved the original zone or area of the city, if you will, last January. We had some discussion and tweaked it at that council meeting. It was almost a year ago, and now we're clarifying
Yeah, those are reasonable changes, and we wouldn't have any objection to that.
All right, so we have an amendment?
You can change it to January 10th, but you know, this thing here was something, there's no guarantee you're gonna get anything. I mean, you know, this was something they were just trying to develop downtown Biloxi with, to bring people down there. So there's no guarantee, I ain't gonna change it to next year. That don't mean you're gonna get a penny. You only have $500,000, there's only 20 of those shots at it. So, you know, there's no guarantee because they moved this or changed that date for anything.
Then it shouldn't make any difference changing the date.
Yeah, so.
Perfect. Will you second that motion to amend?
No? All right. Do I
Just
have a
thought I'd
second?
let you wake you up a little bit.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
What's that, Mike?
Do y'all have an issue with changing it to the 10th? Does it?
I don't have any issue with that. I mean,
I'll second it.
it sets a firm date, and
That's
it
fine.
eliminates any confusion of when the mayor actually signs the resolution. He generally signs these on Thursday, so that's a reasonable change.
Well, if you, Mayor, and Eddie approve it, I think we've got a second.
Yeah.
Got a second by
I'm
Mr.
fine.
Barrett. All in favor? Unanimous vote with Glavin out of the room? Nope. Did you vote for it?
What we voted for.
What?
Did y'all amend, did you amended anything, changed anything?
Yes, we voted for the amendment. Did you vote against it?
Just when you thought 2020 is getting better.
3 days? I just said, yeah, that's how we get in trouble,
Okay,
amending
you
these
voted
things at these
against it.
meetings.
Moving on. Yes.
When we getting this new mic system?
Are we gonna vote for it as amended now? All in favor? George against?
You got it?
Okay, anything else you'd like to discuss, Mr. Tisdale?
That's, I've had as much fun as I can stand, thank you.
You sure? Demi? Key, as in Paul? Mr. Gaines?
Yes, I'd like to look at Q with Keith Hurd. I would like to make an amendment adding to the 2,500 back to what he was getting prior to, I think it was earlier, the 25 to make it a even 10. Keith Hurd has been very valuable. He's been here over the holidays to give us a lot of that information. And when Gerald and I went to DC to try to recoup a lot of the infrastructure money you were talking about, at least $6 million, he was valuable, very valuable in us. Pretty much getting all the senators and congressmen together to make that happen. So I'd like to offer an amendment to that.
I'll second that.
All right, we have an amendment from Mr. Gaines and a second by Mr. Barrett. Is there any discussion on that?
Yeah, I think it was the first 17 months
He
we
wants to
given him
add
10,000.
2,500 to make it an even 10,000.
I said, I think he owes us the 10,000 we paid him for 17 months, we didn't get anything. So you're not doing nothing. He's the one accepted the 7,500. So that's good enough. I didn't like paying the 7,500, so.
Well, the 7,500 was before we had a vacant position that somebody was doing some of the work that he's going to be picking up. And I had the opportunity to sit down with Keith Hurd, and I feel a lot more comfortable now than I did before after discussing with him. And then echoing what Felix said, without Keith, we wouldn't have, that money that FEMA had de-obligated, we wouldn't have gotten that money without Keith getting in the trenches and making that happen. And so just that, what was it, $8.8 million to me is worth that. That would not have happened without Keith getting in there and making that happen. And the connections that he has in DC, and I don't know that we continue to do the 10,000 indefinitely, but at least during the session, I think that it's valuable to have him in the trenches in Jackson to make that happen.
And we have a chance to review it, I think, in 3 months, Mayor, 3 months. So we put a shorter lease on him for this time.
Well, the only thing I got to say, we paid him $500 a month to do the job. That's what he did. He did his job. Yeah, I mean, so, but I mean, we've been paying him to do this. I was probably hiring him to do this stuff. You know? I didn't say he didn't do it, I'm just telling you, that's the idea.
One of the things, and I mentioned this to you earlier, that I think would be very helpful, and I know that we don't always see immediate results and things like this because in government things just take time, but if we could get a monthly report just saying these are the things that we're working on, working towards, I think that that would be a good plus if we could just get that, a monthly report. And whenever he and I talked, he said he didn't have a problem with that. If we
And I
could just
think
get
in
a
these
list
next
of
3
things.
months too, it's critical. These 3 months in the legislature and the new administration is very critical. So I think it's well worth, the additional compensation.
Mayor, it would be a lot cleaner if we could pull this and resubmit it a week from now with the new.
No, just call for the
I think we
question.
just go forward with that right now.
Call for the question.
All in favor?
Just change the contract. I don't think there'd be a
Wait a
problem with
minute,
that.
it's on the consent agenda.
We just amended it to that, that's all.
Just amend the amount of the contract, right?
Yes.
Who seconded it? Nathan,
Mayor.
that's right. Okay, all in favor of the amendment? Unanimous vote? No?
5-1.
5-1. Lawrence against. Now voting on it as amended. All in favor? 5-1. Okay, anything else you'd like to discuss, Mr. Gaines?
That completes me.
Okay, Mr. Lawrence.
George.
I just have a comment on the H. Chief Miller, is this 37,000 car is dressed out completely? Okay, now they run around 42 to 44,000. I thought it was kind of cheap. So it's going to cost us how much more per car?
State contract, that's the going price.
I mean, the car, this is just the car itself?
It's just the car, there are some amenities in it, but there are things we'll have to add, like radar, and we'll probably have to put a camera system in it, some things like that.
Well, it seemed like the car though was running around 25, 26,000. That's why I thought maybe it was more to this than
No, they've gone up, they've gone way up. We looked at moving to Chevys, but the Chevys, they're at like 42, so there's just really no way to even afford them anymore.
So you dress it out completely, what it's gonna run, the total's gonna run now?
It'll
Way
probably
more
be,
than-
it'll be at least another 300,000 by the time they're dressed out.
How much?
About 300,000 for all of them.
Oh, for all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought that was a pretty good increase just for the car itself, 12,000, you know?
Yeah.
That's all, I wanted to check that out.
Yep, they're expensive.
Yep, thank you.
Anything else? Mr. Lawrence?
No, that was it. Y'all come the other way.
All right, all
Y'all
in
did a
favor?
good job for change, I'm proud of y'all.
All in favor of the consent agenda? Unanimous votes with Glavin out of the room and Deming is against. P as in Paul. Code enforcement?
Well, I voted against Q, I voted that straight up.
First code enforcement case, item A, Linus L. Coleman Estate, care of Cherish N. Coleman, 1630 Pringle Circle. This property is still in violation.
Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of Linus L. Coleman Estate at 1630 Pringle Circle? If not, this case is closed.
Item B on the agenda, Audrey L. Floyd Estate, 1612 Lewis Avenue. There's actually two parts to this case. the first case was there was a tree that fell on the roof of the structure. So the case that's coming before you today was to remove the tree. Since we started the case, the tree has been removed, and so what we would have to do is go back and start again with the repairs that need to be made to the house. So actually, the case that's before you today is resolved. Okay. Item C on the agenda, Earl Pexon, 1726 William Harrison Drive. That case has been resolved. Item D, Red Dot Storage, 8231 Wool Market Road. That case has been resolved. Item E, Betty Smith Roads, 218 Hoxie Street. That case has been resolved. Item F, Ramona Scruggs, 156 Coon Street. This property is still in violation.
Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of Ramona Scruggs at 156 Coon Street? If not, this case is closed.
Item G, Chan Tran, 173 Dory Street. This property is still in violation.
Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of Chan Tran at 173 Doris Street? If not, this case is closed.
Item H on the agenda, TTLBL, 764 Highland Drive. This property is still in violation.
Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of TTLBL LLC at 764 Highland Drive? If not, this case is closed.
Item I on the agenda, Elizabeth V. Corcoran, 366 Main Street. That case has been resolved.
Thank you. Do we have a motion on the routine agenda? Motion by Mr. Tisdale, seconded by Mr. Guines. Any discussion, Mr. Lawrence?
We get any money, we want to give somebody else a raise? Anybody brings any money in? You get another 2,500, you get something in here, you know? God, he's coming all the way up to the mic. This must be good news.
Well, over the month of December, we got $5.6 million in. And so right now, we have a healthy balance. We only have 105,000 in the pipeline, but during the month of December, we got $5.6 million.
Do we have to amend your contract?
From MEMA. Huh?
We have to amend your contract, give you more money? You got him and Walt Road, give them 2,500 each a month. $5 million, pretty juicy.
Pretty good.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor of the routine agenda? Unanimous votes with Glavin out of the room. Now do I have a motion for the council to go into closed session for the purpose of examining the necessity to go into executive session? Motion by Mr. Lawrence, seconded by Mr. Guines. All in favor? 5-1, dimming against. Now do I have a motion for the council to reconvene as an open meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Lawrence, seconded by Mr. Guines. All in favor? 5-1, dimming against. Do I have a motion now that the council go in executive session?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Lawrence, seconded by Mr. Guines. All in favor? 5-1, dimming against. Be right back. For the purpose of discussing pending litigation with the Secretary of State.
Did Michael Watson just get sworn in? We're already sitting here?
He didn't move fast enough.